Hello, hello. This is Sheri from the Sheri K. Hoff Show, where we focus on living joyfully in your life and business. You can reach us at sherikhoff.com. That's SherikayEhoff.com.
Let me tell you about my exciting guest here today. And she is a fantastic guest as well as a good friend. Eva Vennari is the founder and CEO of the Elevate Institute, a cutting-edge health practitioner firm specializing in empowering driven professionals to take charge of their body and their health. She is the creator of Reveal Optimal Health Intensive. It is a holistic process that lets you understand exactly what your body needs to heal and rejuvenate so you can continue bringing your talent to the world while feeling great in your body. Through science and common sense habit changes, one can create shifts for a higher quality of life that far outlasts the time invested. I'm so glad you're here today. How are you?
I'm good, Sheri. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I was just thinking when you said the common sense habits in your bio, that's what I love about you, that you have all this science, but you break it down into such easy to follow, like, hey, I get that kind of steps. So I'm so excited about what we're going to be talking about here today. And we're going to be talking first about boundaries. So how do boundaries tie into chronic illness?
I find the excuses almost comical now. So when I hear somebody say, oh, I can't do that right now, Eva, I have to make sure that I'm involved in the PTA, or that, so there's some sort of sacrifice, that we have been taught. Doesn't matter, men or women. Women are known for doing it more. But the more that we put ourselves on the back burner for the benefit of others, to the point of not paying attention to our own needs, can't say no to other people, the mother-in-law, the husband, the wife, whoever is in your very close sphere of obligation. If we can't learn to manage our time and learn to say no, we neglect ourselves, and it's almost automatic. And the social pressures and cultural pressures that we've grown up with are toxic. So getting to that point of saying, I'm willing to look in the mirror and change these behaviors, and being willing to be brave enough to look at those loved ones in the face and say, I'm sorry, you are going to complain. I understand that, but my health is important. I love you, but I love me more. Has to start coming out of the mouth. And so when that happens, then the boundaries around taking care of yourself become obvious. So that's really how it's related.
Yeah, I love that because, I guess I never really thought much about excuses as boundaries, as a boundary issue. And I think about my own life. My youngest is going to be turning 22, but as a mom of smaller kids, I often put myself last, and, everything was always for them first. And I know lots of moms, lots of parents can relate to that. But then, I did have that moment of, what happened to the person who used to dream big, and now all my dreams are tied into, other people's outcomes. And, so I had to have that moment of recognition. And so how would you say that people can get to that moment of recognition? Because really, when you have to have that moment of recognition before you make the change, because otherwise you're just kind of in this cycle.
Yeah. And you're going to find yourself in a cycle that feels a lot like, oh, wow, this day is a mess. And, you've seen those old cartoons, or even the commercials where, the wife's in the kitchen, she's got flour all over her face and she's running around after the kids. That's the 50s mode, right? But I think we can all relate to having a haggard day, something where we're feeling pulled in all directions, when we have headaches, when we feel like we're not getting enough sleep, and 2 weeks of sleep isn't going to be enough to recover from this kind of tired. When you start feeling like that, there's a desperation that starts in the pit of your stomach, and you just think, I have to find something. And that's usually the turning point. I have yet to find people, okay, I'm going to correct that. Most people don't make change until there's a terrible pain that's in front of them, because we will continue to do the things that even are not good for us as long as they're paying us in some sort of positive emotion, right? So it's always going to be the I'm getting a payoff of some kind where this feels really good to do, until suddenly it does not feel really good to do. That's usually the turning point.
Yeah, I love that this comes first, because in the health journey, so many people start with everything you're supposed to be doing for your health. But again, it's getting to that point first of recognizing that moment that you then are committed. So thank you so much for putting that first and helping people kind of recognize that in themselves. So what is, you talk about the essential love of self. What is that?
It is one of the underlying themes I have found, not only with myself, but as a reflection in many of my clients and friends, that there's this self-sacrifice, and there's almost a sabotage of, right, giving up what we want, our dreams, our standards of what we're willing to accept in our life as a replacement for our dreams, right? All of those that we're settling for things we don't want to. And so I call it your PVTs. This is getting to know who you are, really looking in the mirror and saying, and it takes a minute, what are my preferences? Those are not non-negotiables. Those are just preferences. What do I preference in my life? How do I like my eggs to how do I like my partner to respond to me? Like I'm learning what we like. Then it's the values. What are the non-negotiables? What am I willing to budge on? And these would be nothing. Like, you don't budge on your values. These are things that go with you. If you know these things, then you're not sitting around trying to please others, right? You just go, no, this is a value of mine. I'm not going to budge on this. I really appreciate your input. Thank you, but bye. And then you have your trajectory. Where are you going in life? You've got to find people on your path that have that same trajectory, that have the same values you have and preferences. And you find that you have camaraderie there. And so that leads you to this place of, well, who do you listen to? And that really is your first key. It's people who've been where you are, have what you want, and have gotten there how you would like to get there based on your own values. So knowing these principles, let's call them, they really help guide a person into this discovery and putting the primary focus of their healthcare on their own shoulders, as opposed to giving their power away to what would be
pay rent starts in 15 minutes.
Sorry.
Okay, it's okay. I'll just edit that part out. Let me write this down, the time. Okay. Okay. Yeah, don't worry about it. So that would totally be me, because I put everything in my calendar with reminders. So.
You can leave it in if you want to. It just shows you how responsible and how organized I have to be. That's fine.
I just might, I think everyone can relate, right?
I have all kinds of assistants to keep me organized, and I live by my calendar. If it's not in my calendar, I'm not doing it. And my to-do list is not what I'm doing. It's just what I'm going to schedule to do. So it's like I've picked up all of these ways of being proactive in my world that help keep my boundaries set straight.
Yeah, I love it. And how real is that? And so okay, we were talking about the essential love of self. And so let's recap those PVTs. I love that, so people can really take that in and bring it home.
Yeah, learn what your preferences are, what you like, and that's going to grow. It's going to change as you change, as you get exposed to life, as you get inspired to take an action and have an experience, and then you go, oh, I didn't like that so much, or just the opposite. Oh, I really like that. Like me, I went axe throwing. My girls took me axe throwing for Mother's Day before COVID, and I went, oh, this is fun. I like this. I want to do more of this. So it's like you add that to your hobbies list. What makes you happy? What brings a smile to your face? What brings you some creativity? What changes up the everyday doldrums for you? Learn what those are. Your values are things that don't change. Usually that comes along with some sort of religious background. For me, I'm a fully recovered Catholic. And so I'm not religious, but I am very spiritual. And it's not just it's very grounded in its woo, meaning that there is a lot of structure behind it. It's just not known. A lot of people are unfamiliar with it, that they do understand dogma of certain religions. And so anyways, wherever your values come from, stick to them and don't try to please others and caving in. And then your trajectory is, where do you want to go in life? What are your dreams? What are your desires?
Mm-hmm. So what is the progression that you talk about of mastering what you struggle with? And this is, everyone's going to be leaning in, because this is the secret sauce that we all want to know, or if we know some stuff, we want to get better at it.
Well, I think it's a human nature concept. We think, well, we've reached a certain level of understanding. We must have reached our pinnacle. We must have arrived. We are here. And they say that the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And that's kind of this progression. It is the same thing. You get to a place and you think, wow, this is a really great understanding I now have about myself or about another person or about how I've been toxic my whole life in my relationships and didn't realize it. Now I can apply these new principles and move forward in a different way. And then, well, time moves in a spiral, according to science. We're going to come back around to that same sticking point, but it's going to be a little higher level. It's going to require you to take on something a little more difficult this time. And we just keep repeating those same life lessons over and over again until finally we learn to love them. And that, to me, is when you know you've reached a mastery, is when the thing that you used to hate, like I used to hate politics in corporate America. Now, because I can have difficult conversations and keep my values and not give up and sacrifice myself or my own personal value and what I bring to the table, I enjoy it, without putting down another person, and like we got doing it in a healthy way. And so it really is about looking at the difference between, I really hate having to start all over again in a relationship. It's such a burden to get to know a new person all the time. I mean, I've been single since 1998. I'll just put it out there. I've been single that long, and I've been in and out of relationships over those years, and found that both myself and my partner were a reflection of each other in our own toxic behaviors. And so we could have both sacrificed ourselves and decided, well, we know this, we know each other, so we're just going to stay here in this miserableness together, which I think a lot of people do. Or we can decide, all right, we've done what we can together. Let's part ways and move on and see what we can do to heal ourselves and find something else. And it's taken me years to develop a sense of confidence in dating and meeting. I'm very straight. I'm straight as Chinese hair is what I say, and so I don't lean any other direction. I like men, and so in dating men, I'm learning a lot about myself, and then realizing I need to do a different job. I need to come to like this whole process of weeding out.
I'm just kind of letting that sit with people because, first of all, Eva is gorgeous. Then you heard she's single. So I know everybody, all the single men are going to be, you got to be smart though, because she is one smart cookie. But how, like the willingness to look at something that you struggle with as, to me, it's like dropping the resistance and being in acceptance and then moving to making it fun. Yeah. I was just thinking about you talked about politics in corporate, and I think no one really likes that too much. But for my own self, one of my biggest struggles is, and still is a little bit, is conflict, because it comes from, my people pleasing way of growing up. And so, and I'm not blaming my parents for that. I think I saw a quote the other day that said, people pleasing is the result of an unmet need. So when I find myself doing the people pleasing, I say to myself, oh, what unmet need am I not addressing here? And it really helps me a lot. But so I'm a natural conflict aversion kind of person, like I say to people, I don't like mean people. I make a joke out of it. I don't like watching TV shows or movies where the people are mean either. I mean, I can have a superhero and a villain, but I can't watch the ones where nobody's a good guy. Like I gotta have a good guy to root for. But what I've learned is to embrace the conflict and to not look at it like it's this thing that has to mean anything about me or the other person. And that some conflict moves you forward, like just this morning, my husband's been under a lot of stress and he hasn't been too much fun to be around. And I told him that. I said, you haven't been very much fun. And, we're your cheering section. We're the ones that are behind you. And he didn't really respond. And he left for work. And I felt kind of bad, like, gosh, he didn't even say, I'm sorry, I love you. But then I was able to sort of detach from that and say, well, okay, he's just in a different place right now. And so I wasn't all emotional and upset about it. And then he called me 10 minutes later and he said, I know, I'm sorry. I've been really cranky lately. I'm really overwhelmed. And we talked through some topics of some ways to have him move through overwhelm. And that's kind of, I find, like a lot of people's strategies for overwhelm are that they don't recognize it until there's some kind of like behavioral thing that comes up. So
yeah, there's nothing wrong with, as a reflection of your partner, to speak up and say what they may not have the ability right now to acknowledge. And so, you're playing your part, if you will, and in supporting a person. And it's like the person with the problem is the one that needs to speak up. So if your needs aren't getting met, then this is a good time to say something. Where we go wrong is by oftentimes using the opposite to I statements. It's the you and blaming, right? So this is where conflict has been difficult in the past because we learned to do it in a toxic way. But if we do it in a healthy way, where we're just talking about from our perspective and how we're feeling and not trying to impose on the other person how they're feeling or what they should do, stop shooting on people is what I say.
Mm-hmm.
And self-care isn't about, and self-love is not necessarily about going and getting a massage and having your nails done. That's pampering, right? When it comes to self-care, it is having these difficult conversations because it's getting that inner child, if you will, the shadow work within you is getting acknowledged. It's getting complete. And the more that is an integrated part of your daily conscious life, the less internal conflict you'll have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Ooh, I like that. I just thought of another one that people could probably relate to, but always struggled going to the doctor. Any doctor, like it was my own inner dialogue. And I realized that the struggle was from the place of feeling scolded, like, oh, am I going to get scolded by, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, or I should do this better. And it was like a childhood reaction, like a being scolded by my parents, but I didn't realize it. But when I realized it, I was like, wait a minute, these people are my partners in my health journey. They're not there to scold me. And some of them are, but they aren't my favorite people. And it doesn't mean anything about me if they say, well, you really should be doing this differently. But I actually am a good patient. Like I do things I'm supposed to do. But it's that struggle with, even when I brought my cat to the vet, she's overweight, and honestly, I'm trying, but I felt scolded by the vet. And so again, it's that inner child shadow work. Here I'm this person who's got this global podcast and I coach people, and I don't like being scolded by the vet or the doctor.
Well, doesn't it remind you of being a child when you were not in control of your own life, when you had to depend on this authority figure, parents usually, for your sustainability and for livelihood? And so it puts you right back into that place of trauma. Who wants to be there? And I had the same experience. I brought my 20-year-old cat to the vet to be put down. He was in obvious despair. She looked at me and she said, has this cat ever been to the vet?
What?
I know. So anyways, I understand. And I just let it kind of roll off. I didn't plan on seeing her ever again.
Right.
I hired her to do a job and I said, yes, he has. Now, what's our next step? And I move forward. So sometimes we have to be the bigger person, but it's who likes to be triggered? I understand.
Right. But I think like recognizing that the trigger actually has nothing to do with the other person. It's all about ourselves. And what does it mean about ourselves? Like, it doesn't have to mean we're, like, I think we think the meaning is, oh, I've done something wrong. But it does mean that there's a reason why it's upsetting. And I think, that there's a lot of stuff like that around food. I know you do a lot with nutrition with people, and there are so many mixed messages around food and what's good and bad. And one thing I love about you is you're probably one of the healthiest eating people I know, but I loved when I saw you eat a fried chicken sandwich. It was like, I thought this girl has some fun too.
Yeah, on a bun. There was a day when I could not eat dairy, anything milk from a cow. I could not eat bread. I could not eat so the fried part, anything fried. The soy. Gosh, the list is kind of long. It's been so long since my food sensitivities have become a memory that my memory is now blurry, but I'm now able to eat and enjoy those things because I healed my gut. That's just part of the program and part of taking care of myself.
Wow. I love that. That could be a whole, I'm sure it could be a year-long program, and maybe it is with you, but it could definitely be a whole nother podcast episode. So since you bring so much to the table and you have so much wisdom, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you? And I know you have a freebie, so tell us about that too.
Oh, I do. So I have on my website, you can go to theelevateinstitute.com. I'm going to scold anybody who forgets the because you're going to end up somewhere you don't want to be. So theelevateinstitute.com. And right there, before you start to scroll, you're going to see a button that says Reveal Illness Hiding in Plain Sight. And this is my eyes on your selfie, where I can use Chinese face reading to uncover anything having to do with inflammation of the heart, the kidneys, the spleen, the liver, and I can even see if you're living in your purpose.
Wow. Your site might crash. Everyone's going there right now. How intriguing is that? Well, I would say you found a great promise there for people. So there you have it. Everyone go over and do that. And Eva, thank you so much. You're just so much fun. And I love how you're letting us keep the little blooper in the podcast, because that's just how real and centered and grounded you are. And I think people will enjoy that too, or have enjoyed that. So thank you so much.
I've enjoyed being here. Thank you.
I invite you to visit SheriKHoff.com for more free gifts and more episodes of the Sheri K. Hoff Show. And I want to wish you a good morning, good evening, good afternoon, no matter where you're listening in the world today. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. This episode is sponsored by the Art of Abundance course. You can find this on the website at SheriKHoff.com. Happy manifesting.